The increasing replacement of metal money by paper money and the various forms of credit unavoidably react upon the character of money, in roughly the same way as in personal relations when somebody allows himself always to be represented by others, so that finally he receives no greater esteem than is accorded to his representatives. The functional value of money exceeds its value as a substance the more extensive and diversified are the services it performs and the more rapidly it circulates. Modern commerce tends more and more to eliminate money as a substantial embodiment of value, and this trend is unavoidable because, even if the production of precious metals were increased to the utmost extent, it would still be inadequate to allow all transactions to be conducted in cash. Clearinghouse business on the one hand and international bills of exchange on the other are only the outstanding examples of this general tendency, the earlier features of which will be discussed in the final section of this chapter. Generally speaking, the less developed the economic concepts, the more strongly does measurement involve a direct physical relation between the values compared. The interpretation outlined earlier, according to which the equality of value between a commodity and a sum of money consists of an equality between two fractions, in which the individual commodity and sum of money are the numerators and the total quantities of all commodities and all money are the denominators, clearly holds universally, because only this interpretation transforms a particular kind of object into money. However, since money evolves only slowly, this mode will also emerge from the more primitive mode of direct comparison of the objects in exchange. The lowest stage is perhaps illustrated by a case reported from the island of New Britain. The natives there use cowrie shells, strung together, which they call dawara, as money. This money is used for purchases according to a linear measure, e.g. an arm length, etc. Fish are usually paid for by dawara equal to their own length. It is also reported from the cowrie money region that a type of purchase prevails in which equal measures of two commodities are considered to be of equal value. Thus, a measure of grain is worth an equal measure of cowrie shells. The direct equivalence of commodity and price has here attained its most complete and simple expression. The comparison of values between which there is no quantitative congruence represents a more highly developed mental process. There are rudiments of such a naive equation of values by equal quantities in the phenomenon that Mungo Park reports of some West African tribes in the 18th century. Iron bars circulated there as money and served to designate the quantities of other commodities. Thus a certain measure of tobacco or rum used to be called a bar of tobacco or a bar of rum. In this case, the disposition to regard value equality as equality of quantities, which was obviously a powerful element, resulting from sense impressions, in the primitive construction of values has been transposed into a linguistic expression. Several other phenomena, very diversified in appearance, can be attributed to the same general attitude. Old coins of bronze from the city of Olbia on the Dnieper, a colony of Miletus, have been preserved which have the shape of a fish, with inscriptions which probably mean tuna fish and fish basket. It is assumed that this fishing tribe originally used tuna fish as a standard of exchange, and that it was considered necessary when coins were introduced, perhaps because of exchange with less developed neighboring tribes, to represent the value of one tuna fish on each coin, thus symbolizing, by using the same form, that it had the same value and exchangeability. In other areas, the same visible association was made less emphatically by impressing a picture of the object, a bull, fish or axe, which was the basic unit of exchange in the period of barter and whose value the coin represented, upon the coin. The same basic sentiment prevails in the Zendavesta, when it is prescribed that a physician should ask as his fee for healing a house owner the value of an inferior ox, for healing a village magistrate an ox of average quality, for curing a town official the value of a high-quality ox, for the governor of a province the value of a carriage and four. On the other hand, the physician would be entitled to a female donkey for curing the wife of a village magistrate, a mare for the wife of a patrician, a female camel for the wife of a governor. The identity between the sex of the patient and the sex of the value equivalent demonstrates the inclination to base the equivalence of values upon a direct external equality. It is just the same with the fact that money originally consisted of large and heavy objects, hides, cattle, copper, bronze, or of large quantities, as in the case of cowrie shell money. The first banknote of which we have knowledge, preserved from China at the end of the 14th century, is 18 inches long and 9 inches wide. The peasant saying, "much gets more," is still influential, reflecting a natural sentiment which is proven wrong only by a more refined and reflective empiricism. The largest coins even of precious metals are found almost exclusively among less developed peoples where barter still prevails. The largest gold coins are the lol of the Annamese, worth 880 marks, the Japanese obang, 220 marks, and the benta of the Ashanti, Annam also has a silver coin worth 60 marks. The same sentiment about the importance of quantity reserved the privilege of minting the largest coins to the highest authorities, while the smaller coins, though of the same metal, were coined by lower authorities. The Persian emperor coined the large coins, the satraps the small gold coins of less than a quarter the value. This feature of considerable quantity is characteristic not only of the early forms of metal money, but in some cases also of the preceding kinds of money. The Slavs who inhabited the area between Sala and Elba during the 1st century AD, and who were a very barbarous primitive race, used linen cloth as money. The exchange value of one cloth was 100 chickens or grain sufficient for 10 men for 1 month. Even in more elaborate money systems, it is noteworthy how the concept of money becomes less and less determined by metal values. The medieval guilder was a gold coin worth a ducat, while today it equals only 100 copper farthings. The original groschen was a thick, grossus, silver coin. The original mark amounted to a pound of silver, the pound sterling equaled 70 marks. Under primitive barter conditions, money transactions took place not for the small needs of everyday life, but only for the acquisition of larger and more valuable objects. The desire for symmetry which characterizes those cultures that are not yet fully developed also regulated money exchange, and a large token of value was demanded for large objects. Only at higher stages of cultural development is it realized that a considerable quantitative inequality still permits equality of power, of significance, and of value. Where practical life is based upon the equating of objects, a direct equality is demanded at first as the size of primitive money in relation to the objects for which it is exchanged illustrates. In the same direction, the abstraction which later recognizes a small piece of metal as the equivalent of an object of any size approaches the goal that one side of the equation no longer functions as a value in itself, but is only the abstract expression of the value of the other side. The measuring function of money, which is loosely connected with its material content, has therefore varied least through all the changes of the modern economy.